Hi everybody, for this class we're studying more about atherosclerosis, main causes and effects. For atherosclerosis, we know that it's a well-known cardiac disease that we study whenever talking about these saturated fats present in the fast foods that we take without even knowing how their intake is hazardous to one's life. For the atherosclerosis, it's caused by either smoking or stress, the intake of saturated fats, blocked arteries, and all these causes, which increase the blood pressure. It all comes to this reason, an increase in the blood pressure. And by this increase in the blood pressure, we find that the endothelial walls that are like the endothelial ones are the inner, single, and squamous parts that line the inner part of an organ or a tissue. So for these endothelial walls, they get damaged. And of course, by damaging, whenever you get a bruise and you find some reddening of this bruise in the outside, this same reddening happens but inside your body, of which you cannot see it, but it happens. The body stimulates a very magical response, which is the inflammatory response that causes reddening inside this part, and the reddening causes the white blood cells to interfere. They're gonna move to the damage site, the site of damage, and that's what the white blood cells move. Ever since the white blood cells move to the site of damage, we know who comes next. It's the LDLs, which are the evil side of cholesterol. Those LDLs coming straight from the liver accumulate on the walls of arteries. They're gonna build up, as you can see here in the diagram. They are accumulating here in this region. Those yellow parts are these parts that form the plaque eventually. So the LDLs accumulate on the walls of arteries, causing the atheroma. Atheroma is something that blocks the pathway of the red blood cells and all the blood cells moving in the capillary or in the artery, all of the blood vessels. It can happen here and it narrows it, where there is a less proportion of the red blood cells moving in the pathway that can move, which can increase the blood pressure even further. We're going to study it later on. So these cholesterol LDLs from the liver are going to accumulate on the walls of arteries that cause this atheroma, which we've talked about, which causes a region here that's increased in size on the endothelial wall of the artery. And of course, this is caused by these saturated fats. Ever since this atheroma is formed, the calcium ions are going to have their role now. They're going to build up around the atheroma because this is kind of soft. We need something to harden it. And of course, this is not a good thing for us, but it just hardens. It's going to be a hardened plaque. And by hardening, it now is stable and more narrowing, a further narrow of the wall. It narrows the diameter of the artery wall, and this reduces the blood flow to the heart. Can you believe how reducing the blood flow to the heart can be like serious damage to everything? The heart, which stimulates all of the processes that are going on as it transports oxygen, all the nutrients and everything, it now cannot receive its beloved oxygen. It cannot receive it as well as before because the diameter is narrowed and the blood flow is less. And also, which is more hazardous, that the blood flow is going to increase further, and this damages the endothelial walls of the arteries. And of course, as we talked here before, a damage to the endothelial walls of the arteries causes something known as a cascade of reactions. a coagulation reactions, a cascade of coagulation reactions that causes the formation of clots. And this is a risk. This is not a good thing at all to our bodies. Like, it increases the formation of clots, and there is a cascade of coagulation of reactions that forms a thrombus. So this reduces the blood flow even more and deprives the heart muscle from oxygen, so that there is less aerobic respiration. We know in aerobic respiration, when the body takes up oxygen and glucose to give us carbon dioxide and water, let me just balance the equation first, and energy also produced or released. Actually, energy is not produced. So there is less aerobic respiration, and the energy is also known as ATP molecules. So it decreases, and instead of having the aerobic respiration that helps our bodies, we have anaerobic respiration in return, which is completely horrible to the body, as it produces the lactic acid. And this lactic acid, as it's an acid, of course, this causes a decrease in the pH of the blood. The pH gets lowered, and this can cause a heart attack or angina, which we're gonna discuss later on.